The county's radio station. This is BBC Radio Lancashire.
So as you've been hearing in our news coverage today, the veteran Birkenhead MP, Frank Field, has been at the Morecambe Bay Foodbank to see the effects of poverty in the town's West End. It's part of his anti-austerity tour of the UK, with Conservative MP Heidi who was moved to tears when he told the Commons the impact that universal credit was having on people in his constituency. Our reporter John Barnes spoke to both of them. First, though, he asked Heidi why she'd had specifically wanted to visit Morecambe.
I want to really shine a real spotlight on real life poverty and just how deep it is out and about in the country. You know, Frank and I together on the Work and Pensions Select Committee, Frank of course is the chair, we hear about this stuff all the time, but I wanted to see it, and I wanted crucially to bring media with us so that Frank and I could share the truth of what's out there with the government.
We have heard some extraordinary testimony from local people today.
Yes, and it doesn't get any easier every time you hear it. And, we must never, ever forget, as two speakers actually very eloquently put today, we're people. It's so easy, I think, to think that, the DWP or in government, it's statistics, it's spreadsheets, it's numbers of claimants. No, these are people with daughters and sons and grandparents and lives and homes they're losing. And it's very, very powerful when you hear those stories.
So many people seem to be having issues with universal credit.
Yeah, and we do, without preempting what our final report will be when we finish these visits, Frank and I are both very aware that it would be extremely unlikely if we didn't come away saying the benefit freeze needs to go, that the 5-week wait on universal credit needs to change, things that we've been saying for a long time, but I guess what we're doing here is actually finding the evidence to prove it.
Frank, have you been surprised what you've heard today?
No, sadly. It's very typical to wherever Heidi and I have gone. It's a very typical picture now of people who are struggling to survive.
How can it change? It
can change as a result of, in a little way, of our campaign, of Parliament seeing more because of the media actually being with us, taking that message out. It can change with very important reforms. One is to lift the freeze. Family benefits have been frozen for so long. Living standards of people on benefit, if they've been families, have been cut, not retired people, but people, particularly those with children, have really been on the rough end. And what we hope to show that this isn't a particular problem to a particular area. A huge number of our fellow citizens, wherever we go, are similarly affected by this curse of being very poor and some of them facing destitution.
So what will you take back to Westminster?
We will take back a renewal of our efforts to try and convince our colleagues at Westminster that when the government comes up with the next budget, we will actually have made some impression on them that we're going to get some reforms.
Heidi, what chances of making real change?
Well, we're absolutely determined. And I think the big difference Frank and I are making these visits now compared to, 6 or 12 months ago, is we have a relatively new Secretary of State in Amber Rudd. And already, she's been to our committee, we've given her recommendations, and she's already fixed stuff. She's stopped the 2-child limit, which would have affected universal credit claimants that would have started this month of February. She's delayed or rather restricted the managed migration process of people moving with the old benefit system. So I feel like that the moment is absolutely prime for us to go to Amber. She's a clever woman. And dare I say, after Windrush, I think she's more inclined to look at the detail perhaps than she might have done last time. And we're going to flip and give it to her. So I am very optimistic, actually. Some of the stuff we're going to ask for is going to cost money, but a lot of it is process and how the system treats people, and that sort of thing can be done relatively economically.
John Barnes reporting from the West End of Morecambe. Stand by, BBC Radio Lancashire.
The county's radio station. This is BBC Radio Lancashire.